a kid gets on and says, how do you commit suicide? And AI gives them different ways of doing it. Terrible result. And so the companies now are really working on ethical delivery of AI to make sure that those kind of harms aren't out there. Then there's the kind of harms that we see that are nation state harms. How does a Department of Defense, a military use AI in attacking? But then there are the unforeseen areas, and that's really the challenge that this commission has to deal with. And I think all of us have to really be aware of that. We don't know what is out there in 5 or 6 years with AI in terms of the harm that can happen.
I want to touch a little bit. You mentioned ethics a bit earlier, and something that keeps me up at night. And you touch on this in your no autonomous nuclear launch bill that you introduced. We had during the Cold War, there was a kind of escalation around nuclear weapons, basically mutual assured destruction doctrine and so forth. With AI, we have a situation where we have, communist China, there really are no kind of ethical boundaries by which the folks over there are going to be constraining themselves. Here, we hopefully do have significant ethical boundaries by which we will be constraining ourselves here. Yet, I imagine there may be this kind of arms race, accelerating arms race. I'd like to get both of your perspective. Maybe we can start with Congressman Lieu on this. And how do we just deal with that reality?
That's an interesting question, because in terms of AI, you could actually use AI to counter other kinds of AI. So right now, there are companies working on essentially watermarking technology that can tell you if a picture you see is the original picture or if it's an altered picture. So there are potentially ways for AI to be used in a way to help you figure out if something is fake or if it's not true. But that's a difficult question, because you're right. There are going to be bad actors, there's going to be bad countries, there's going to be criminals, there's going to be hackers who try to use it. And again, I think being somewhat skeptical of AI is I think, healthy for people. And also just to understand that in this new world, you're going to have a lot of folks trying to hack into your data and just practicing better cybersecurity practices and just being more aware that there are bad actors out there who are going to try to steal information from you and take certain steps to protect yourself.
If I can just quickly follow up, I'm thinking about things like, for example, autonomous weapon systems. Okay, that's a very robust area where there's AI development happening right now. I happen to know in both countries. So, you can imagine an escalation of an arms race. You have to, these AIs, they respond very quickly, right? Should we really have a human in there? Is that reasonable? Maybe we should, lower our guard over here to be able to deal with that threat. I'm talking about that kind of stuff.
I see. So I think both Representative Buck and I have come to the conclusion that we don't think AI should ever launch a nuclear weapon by itself. And we would have that view whether or not China or Russia or other countries do that. We think it would be insane if they do that, but we're still of the view that the United States should never get to that place where we just let an AI launch a weapon by itself.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I would even go a few steps below a nuclear weapon, because if we have an autonomous system that sends a conventional missile into a foreign capital, a foreign major city, it starts something that humans might want or might not want. And so I think that there's no way of anticipating enough of the factors with AI to really trust AI in initiating conflict. In responding to a conflict that exists is a different story. But I think when you initiate a conflict or respond within moments to some other country initiating a conflict, there's issues. So I think our bill deals specifically with nuclear weapons. I would even go a step further and make sure that our military is prepared to deal with non-nuclear or conventional weapons.
And I just want to add to that, it is fundamental and inherent in this technology, the way it's designed, because we don't really, again, know what it's doing, right? We can't trace it from point A to its conclusion. So this AI algorithm could be correct 99.999% of the time. But that is not good enough if it's controlling nuclear weapons, right? Because there could be this one random scenario where it goes totally bonkers and we would not know. And that's why it's so important, I think, to have a human in the loop, both in that area and then now that Rep. Brock mentioned what he just said, we're going to maybe look at other bills to introduce as well.
And I think to this point, I'm also curious to bring it a step down even further, not just nuclear and other missile systems, but even, say, drone systems or autonomous robots that can do, door-to-door urban combat and things like that. Is there a concern that this type of technology can actually level the playing field, if you will, with, foreign countries that are adversaries to the United States, like Iran?
Well, it can do more than level the playing field. It can level buildings and all kinds of things. And so we've got to be careful how we use it, how we empower AI. At some point, we hope there is a switch that can be turned on and turned off. And if we don't have a switch that you can turn on and turn off, then you get into the sort of sci-fi movies that we've all been seeing in the last few decades. But I think it's really important that in the concept of the bill that Congressman Lieu and I introduced is to make sure that there is a human in the chain of command for nuclear weapons. What you're talking about, we absolutely need for non-nuclear weapons. But also, say we send a drone someplace, yes, as long as we have control over the target of that drone, and should we trust the drone so that we don't have to maintain some sort of communication with the drone? That's something the military is going to figure out, and it really goes beyond my capability, and I think that's why Ted and I feel so strongly about having a commission.
Something that's also been on my mind a lot when it comes to AI has been just this idea, let's take it down even a little further, just an autonomous car that's driving. Let's say it causes an accident, kills some people. It's going to happen. They make mistakes. We know that already. Who's really responsible in those situations?
That is a fascinating ethical question. In the United States, approximately 40,000 people die every year in car accidents. Most of that is human error. Autonomous vehicles are going to reduce that number. So it's going to save lives. Now, what if the autonomous vehicle manufacturer knows, though, that, if they spend another 6 months on their technology, it can better identify certain risks and not result in accidents that would, harm passengers or the driver. Do they wait 6 months to deploy it, or do they deploy it right now because it's already better than a human who's driving?